Hello, I'm Jashikins, and welcome to the first ever episode of With Extra Happy. And with me today, as she will always be, is my lovely co-host.
Kitor.
What happened, Kitor?
Oh, I got retweeted by Mr. Michael Grant, K.A. Applegate's hubby and co-writer for Animorphs, the book series we would be talking about always. Um, I
It's not
have
like this is an Animorphs podcast or anything.
Yeah, I know.
I didn't exactly mention that when I began.
Yeah,
So anyone who didn't know the reference would be, what? Are these just two high people talking about shit?
Yeah. Anyway, recently I've been recollecting the Animorphs books, and I finally got the last one just the other day, and I took a picture for my Twitter, and I just happened to put just K.A. Applegate's and Michael Grant's uh, twi Twitter names in the post, just of like, hey, I love you guys still, look at this picture, not thinking that, they were gonna actually retweet the picture. And then I find out when I look at the picture, I'm like, damn, I put his Gone series in the wrong order.
Oh god, that's always the best. It's like, hey, my idol, has retweeted this. Oh shit, this is imperfect.
Yeah.
What will they think of me now?
I know. So after I found that, I was like, oh no, Hunger needs to go here, God needs to go here. So now it's fixed. But yeah, that was my big yay! I've loved you guys for 20 plus years, and this happens. So yeah, that was my last night and this morning. So.
Well, yeah. Now we have to actually describe the Animorphs series in short for those of you who are watching, who for some reason are watching an Animorphs podcast that will, of course, be spoilery. Without knowing what the fuck you're watching. So listen, just go out and read it and then come back to the podcast. Don't worry about missing this, because once this is done, it will be automatically saved to my YouTube channel. So
yeah, and if you want to go out there and try to find the PDF files for the series, it's out there. Even though I think it was on Richard's Animorphs forum, it used to be there. But if you go on Facebook to the Animorphs fan forum page, somebody has a link to all the PDFs. So you could get your Animorphs reading all. Yeah, your fix. Sorry.
Oh, good. Okay, so now that we've reprimanded everyone for not reading Animorphs and watching this podcast, how would you describe Animorphs?
5 teenagers with a death wish is usually the first thing that pops in my mind. Let's see.
Animorphs is about these 5 kids who you think are just 5 random kids that are walking through a construction site, and lo and behold, this alien crashes down and he says, yeah, listen, there's this invading alien force and you're so looking good and capable of fighting it off. Here's the power to fight them, and you can't tell anyone, and you need to tell your species about this, and yeah, go have fun. Get PTSD, don't have a childhood. And then later in book 4, they find the brother, another one of these good quote unquote good aliens, and they rescue him, and he becomes part of the team.
Wow, you just did 1 through 4 right there.
I'm sorry, and I ad-libbed that totally.
Anyway, yeah, 5 kids are coming, going from the mall into a construction site, like you would.
Abandoned construction site, because why not?
Yeah, why? Yeah, and if you really think about it, it's a very Green Lantern origin kind of thing. That's the same thing that happened to I forgot who the first Green Lantern was,
Hal
but
Jordan walked through an abandoned construction site as a 13-year-old.
almost. But he was a test pilot. But yeah, basically, alien came down. He was dying, and he's like, "Here, take this ring. You give you power to help Earth." And it's basically the same thing.
We're
And,
not going to explain anything too much for you.
yeah,
Have fun.
yeah. Yeah, a dying alien that looks like a centaur, but blue, with alien eye stalks with eyeballs. Yeah, stalk eyes, and a scorpion-like tail that will basically turn you into shish
Shish
kebab.
kebab.
Yeah, and he Prince Elfangor. Uh, he's dying, and he gives them the power to morph into any animal they touch. How awesome is that? Yes, you have to touch them to acquire their DNA and become them. So Jashikins will later turn that little penguin for everybody.
Yeah. I'm a cute little penguin. That's going to be my battle morph.
Yeah. Oh, you killed him with cuteness. Oh.
They don't expect the cute ones.
Yeah, of course.
Totally surprised.
Okay, I got a question for you. How did you get into Animorphs?
I am so glad you asked.
Dun dun dun.
Okay. I actually have this on my blog, so I'll be taking my cues from there. Well, basically, it was back in around 4th grade. I was, those scholastic, book order things they used to
Yeah,
have?
little magazines, yeah.
Yeah,
With
well,
Goosebumps.
yeah. So I was like looking through it, trying to figure out at least one thing that I could get that would seem to halfway interesting. And so I saw the first Animorphs book there, and I was like, okay, I'll see how this goes.
Mm-hmm.
It was crack.
Yeah, it
I,
is.
I, I know that to many of you watching this may seem like I am making a hyperbole. No, seriously, it was as addictive as crack, which is why I'm going through the rereads so slowly. Besides, documenting it so much, it's because I had to have the books removed from me so I would read other things. Because I would just read and reread just Animorphs.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Mm-hmm.
like, the first, maybe up to book 30 at least, I, yeah, I read that a lot more than is healthy.
Mm-hmm. Well, for me, it started, I would say, about 5th grade. Now, this is back in 96, I would say. Right when the series came out, it was a book fair in our elementary school, and I just happened to see a girl turn into a cat. And I was like, oh, this is my thing right here, kitty, 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 kitty. But I was like, no, it's the second one. Where's the first one? Oh, a boy turned into a lizard. Next, after school, I, ranted and raved to my mom. I need, $5-10. So I'd get those 2 books. Even though I did not read the back of them, I'm just like, they're turning into animals. I gotta
Just
read
be
them.
happy.
Yes. And that is basically where my obsession came from, was that I read their first 2 books. My first book, The Invasion, is in horrible condition because I read that thing so many
Okay. My
times.
book number 6 for me yeah, it's holding up.
Yeah, I need at the end of the episode when we link it, I need to give you the picture of the condition of my first book.
Oh, God.
But but Animorphs has been my thing ever since '96, and that just shows you how old I am. And yeah,
You're
and
older than me, which isn't much.
yeah, and I remember when Harry Potter was just starting to gain momentum in the book world. When I would hear that Harry Potter overtook Animorphs as the kids series, like bestseller, I was like, no, Harry Potter must die. JA is awesome.
I didn't mind the popularity of Harry Potter, but Animorphs did handle war in a much more realistic fashion. Let me just say, I like the epilogue of the final Harry Potter book, but the end of the Animorphs series is much more realistic of how people would be after, an event like that.
Yeah, just no different than any war of Afghanistan or Iraq or having to deal with what you had to do just to what you thought was right. And we're getting way ahead of ourselves.
This is going to cover the entire series, so we can jump from with my upcoming podcast So 91, which should air this Sunday. I just need an exact time from my co-host.
Mm-hmm.
But that will be covering book by book, and only talking about different books when relating to something in that book. But this one we have no constraints.
Yeah.
The entire series, we can't get ahead of ourselves unless there was a sequel series to Animorphs.
Yeah. But how would these 5 kids deal with the most biggest situation ever in mankind? And we got Jake, Rachel, Tobias, Cassie, and Marco. And later on, Aximili. I can never say his.
Yeah, just say Axe, because even the kids can't pronounce it.
Yeah.
They're like, fuck it.
Yeah, I know how to say the alien that they rescue in book 4 is Prince of Fangor's kid brother. And everybody calls him Axe because Aximili Israel. It's too unpronounced, so everybody's he is Axe, and so now with 6 of them, and oh, by the way, let me just tell you this little tidbit. You only have 2 hours to stay in Morph, and what happens when you stay in Morph after 2 hours, Cash?
Cash?
Cash.
And cash.
Yeah.
I would like cash. I was like, oh, Diablo bringing money.
Yeah, you're being paid. Hey.
Finally. But yeah, you get stuck in Morph. You become what Andalites call an Nothlit.
Yeah, which happens
Which I will defend to my dying days that Tobias did on purpose by the end of the first book.
Same thing. I think, Tobias, he had a very crappy childhood, moving from very abusive. I think at least from his uncle. It seems like from his aunt, it was just more of work you like a slave, cleaning and all that kind of stuff. But I think he did it just to get out of that situation. But he got stuck as a red-tailed hawk.
Yeah, he got bullied at school, so yeah, him being stuck as a red-tailed hawk, on the surface, when he's just deciding it, he'd be like, yeah, this is the way to escape. And mind you, he's not in a very stable state of mind, because he's like, well, I now have the fate of the world on my shoulders, I'd abusive, childhood, I'll just turn into Hawk and everything will be a-okay. And in the third book, you can tell he's like, oh shit, abort!
Yeah, he basically goes on a suicidal thing.
Basically, he does.
Well, I know. I'm just trying to be more, it's like, well, yeah, he basically crashes through a mall window trying to kill himself.
Yeah, he goes through the doors first, but luckily enough, someone opens it just in time. and then he nearly, commits suicide by flying up and just crashing into the sky,
The
sky,
skylight, yeah.
skylight, whatever it was called. And
Yeah.
Marco just happens to throw the baseball and save his life.
Yeah. And it was mostly because he finally had I guess a taste for meat. He's like,
Yeah,
"Oh crap, I am a hawk now." You
yeah,
know,
he let the hawk mind take over.
yeah, his humanity just started, and this is just, point A of what this book series
Yeah,
the roller
that's just the third
coaster.
book, folks. That's just
Yeah, book three.
three.
And this is aimed to like 8-year-olds,
Tops probably reading around 9 or 10.
Yeah, this was usually aimed at 8 to 12-year-old kids, and in book three, yeah, I can't take it no more. I'm just gonna kill myself. What?
They're
Yeah,
kids.
yeah. Now this would be in the teen section, like almost like Hunger Games or anything like that. Especially later on, with at the end of the series, it shit does go down.
Oh
You
yeah.
know, yeah, I mean
Luckily, no,
major.
none of the main Animorphs cast dies.
Mm. Yeah, yeah, but with that, um, we will discuss how the kids' reason for fighting. You know, um, it
Yeah, no, well, next we're going to be covering favorite characters in
yes,
books.
yes,
Now
uh,
you're getting ahead of us.
yes. I'm sorry. It's just like ah.
I know we want to discuss everything now.
Yes. Let's make this an 8-hour podcast. Yeah.
Fuck yeah.
Yeah. My favorite character, the one that I would not say really favorite, it's more I connect to, is Cassie. She is the peacemaker. She is the mother hen. She is the animal expert. And in some people's little circles in the minority of the Animorphs fandom, she is the biggest hypocrite of them all. Especially later on when she gives up the morphing cube to save Jake's brother Tom, who was a human controller.
So that
Um,
Jake wouldn't kill his brother and wouldn't have that stain on his hands.
yeah,
What a
and
hypocrite. Hypocrite.
hypocrite, yeah, hypocrite.
Well, that's how much sense those fuckers make. I'm sorry.
Well, thing is also of how people say of, oh no, she's very Mother Teresa, and then she goes and kills people. Like in book 19, she finally realizes the guilt that she does when she purposely accidentally kills a Yurt's brother. And she gets so guilt tripped by that when the Yurk, the sister, finds out who she is, and basically it's like, hey, if you don't, figure this out and all this and be with me, or do something, I will, hey, you be a nice host for somebody, and Earth will be ours, So, but yeah, that is a lot of what would people say of the biggest negativity about Cassie is her um, being a hypocrite. But to me, if I was in Cassie's shoes and you were trying to protect everybody that you love, I would say F morals for this for the situation. I mean,
Yeah.
really, even if you are I don't want to hurt people, whatever. You're trying to save 7 billion people. I think you have to put your morals to the side.
Yeah, I think that's every character, every main character in the series is, more than just one face. They're three-dimensional characters. So yeah, Cassie is a pacifist at heart, but she will make the hard decisions when she has to, because she's so good at seeing into people and being a peacemaker. That also means she can be the most ruthless when needed.
Yeah, yeah. She can be emotionally manipulative.
Oh,
Um,
David.
especially yeah, David. That
Oh God.
we'll save that for another episode.
Oh
We'll
yeah,
just talk David. Uh, but uh, but casting would be mine. But I would say if I were to pick a favorite character, I would have to say Marco. Just of he again, he's a little bit like me. He's a strategist. He can see kind of ahead, and he could go like, "Oh crap, we need to do this." Not really seeing the future, but just like I can see where shit can go down. Well, let's do this instead.
He can see, as he said, I think in one book, clearly from point A to point B, and
Mhm.
he can be really ruthless in figuring stuff out,
Mhm.
which makes him a good second in command.
Yeah, oh yeah, he is definitely. So a lot of people say that Rachel will be the almost second in command, but for Jake, no, it's all Marco. It's those two. They're video game nuts. They're always playing, first-person shooters and probably even RPG games, and so they're having to think of strategy all the time. I mean, there's studies about people playing video games become better at strategy, at thinking ahead, at uh, making difficult decisions versus people that don't play video games. And I hate to say that, play your games and you'll be smarter, but you know, Jake and Marco, were pretty much gamers. And so they were able to even think about even I was just rereading one of my books, and Marco, he steals a freaking tank. He's like, "Hey, I think I've actually drove
He
this
can't
tank."
drive.
Yeah, oh yeah, he can't drive with
He
shit.
just hate trash cans.
Yes, especially when he's in Gorilla Morph, he just because he's a little bit longer, he's the second shortest of the bunch. Just because he goes into Gorilla Morph and he has longer appendages doesn't mean he can't drive. But he steals a tank, an M1 tank. And he said, "Hey, I think I've seen this in the game. I can do this." And he says, luckily inside the tank, everything is marked. Here's power. Here's the master switch. Here's this. Here's that. Let's go do this. Anyway, what are your favorite characters?
Okay. I'm just gonna talk it, finish talking about Marco and then go on to my own.
Okay. Okay.
Marco, he uses humor to, make to cover up that he's scared or what he's actually feeling or that, he actually gives two shits about anything.
Mhm.
And even when he's reluctant, before book 5 and he finds out Fisher wanted his mother, he just looks after the group. He's more than ready to say, "Hey, you morons, that sounds lovely, but no."
until he says his mom sees his mom and he's like, "Oh crap!" Because a lot of
I
times,
do have to join this shit.
yeah, because he wanted to quit many times before book 5, and then we will discuss a little bit later. It's his mama. He's got to stay in and do
Yeah,
what he
and
doesn't
like
want to do.
before he finds that out, he's I think he really fights for in the beginning fights for Jake just because he's like, "You're my best friend. I can't let you die."
Yeah, yeah.
I hate myself for liking it, for having you as a friend.
And he's like, well, because those two are, two best friends, peas in a pod.
Yeah.
It's kind of like, well, you're stuck in this, I'm stuck in this. All right, but we will only morph when we need to. But yet then he turns. What was it that he turned into later on? He turned into a lobster for one to save his life, but later on he turns into a lobster just to hang out in his pool and get his
Oh
keys.
yeah, at the end he's like, "It's the
Yeah,
key." Don't normal people do that? No.
yeah. yeah, I'm just gonna hang out in my $1 million house in my nice pool and just hang out as a lobster at the deep end of the pool. It's just like, oh, you
Oh,
hypocrite.
God.
Yeah,
Actually, in my
yeah,
own fanfic, New Beginnings, he does a lobster morph later on. Near the end of that fic is because of that end scene in of that one scene in the final book. That's the reason it's there. I could have had him nearly be stuck in morph with anything, but I did the lobster one because that is such a good scene.
yes, it's very iconic. Um, just like with Extra Happy is very iconic, and any Animorphs fan will tell you the origin of this phrase. So ask your friends that used to read them back in the 90s.
Yeah, and okay, for favorite character, now that we went off on a big Marco tangent.
Hey, we'll be doing it a lot.
Well, yeah, Jash Talks, my main podcast, yeah, we live on tangents. We'll say, we're going to talk about this, and woo! Silly. Okay, but my favorite character is, of course, Tobias.
Yes.
He's God.
He,
He's like the other ones. I can be very non-biased and say, yeah, these are the faults of this character, and that's a fault. Tobias, I'm like, I can't choose a fault. You're perfect.
well, I mean, the biggest fault I would have to say is, I hate to say, him being so in love with Rachel that would cloud his judgment in most things. Especially at the end of the series, when he's like, "Hey, I don't see Rachel around here. What's going on?" And Jake won't say anything. Say, "Tell me, no. Tell me, no." And you find out later on at the end of the series that it breaks Tobias down, and he basically becomes like a nomad. He just lives in the forest, and he goes all hawk, for most of the time. And yeah, but with Tobias, he's the innocent one.
Well, him running off when the love of his life died, it's not really a fault. It's just like one thing that was helping him hold on, and the world turned to shit, and
Well, it turned into shit for him after he was born.
yeah, I know, but still, it's like she was like one of the shining lights of his life,
Mm-hmm.
and you already are suffering from
PTSD.
PTSD from the war. You're the only Animorph to actually have been tortured,
Mm-hmm.
literally tortured, and
Mm-hmm.
then she's gone, and you're like, I don't know what to do.
Yeah.
It's like
So,
he now hates Jake because Jake was the one to send Rachel on the suicide run.
yeah, yeah,
Axe is over there doing military stuff.
yeah.
Cassie, Cassie and Marco are basically carrying on pretty well.
Yeah, the only two that did anything with their lives after the war and stay sane for the most part. It took Jake a long, long time to get his head out of his butt and come back into the world.
Yeah. Tobias, for me, connected to me, he's like, besides Axe, he really has the least number of narrated books,
Mhm.
and he's the loner. And for me, growing up, I was a loner. I really had no friends. My friends were my books.
Mhm. Yeah, same here for the
And
longest time. Yes, these five kids were my friends, and I would draw pictures
fun.
every time I would see a red-tailed hawk. Just like any other Animorphs fan, you would think Tobias. You know, And I would even go as far as, let me see if that hawk, it looks around the same look like Tobias does. You know, because when red-tailed hawks age, they get more white on their chest. And so I would actually learn about red-tailed hawks later on because of Animorphs. You will become an animal lover, more or less, with this series, because you learn so much about it through. And here's the thing: when you morph, you just don't turn that animal, and things are nice and nice and rosy. You get the animal's basic instincts, so you have to fight basically having two mindsets in your head.
Yeah, that's what sort of drives Tobias in book 3 to try to commit suicide, because the hawk mind has finally, really taken hold, and Tobias realizes he can't just be a pure human, that he has to live in both worlds.
Well, that, and don't forget, he was getting the hots for a real red-tailed hawk female.
Yeah. I'm taking this word from a friend on Tumblr.
Mm-hmm.
Sexual. Tobias is
Yeah,
make that a thing.
yeah. That's the only drawback of this series is with fan fiction writers. It seems like bestiality is almost a requirement.
I didn't have hawk on hawk action in one of my smut fics.
No, bestiality is
literally
human on animal.
What?
Bestiality is human on animal.
I tagged it bestiality just, in case. And it was really funny. Those one person's going around Tumblr looking at every fic in Animorphs fic on AO3. And I guess he or she is a biologist, and he or she's like, this wouldn't work because blah blah blah, and I'm just going there. So go to madness. Accept it.
Well, I mean, would it be okay? Would it be bestiality if it was like human on Andalite?
Well, the thing with the makes bestiality wrong is I can't believe we're talking about this in the first episode, but anyways, here's a little bit into our insanity. The thing with bestiality being wrong is because the animal can't consent. But things like Yerks or Andalites, we could have like a little debate on Hork-Bajir, is that they fully know what's going on, they can consent. So I would say interspecies for those situations.
Well, it's just that weird mix of that whole centaur motif, So a lot of people think it's like, well, I don't know how that would work, but
it works. I had hawk sex. I think I can deal with Andalite on human.
Yeah, we'll talk about interspecies relationships, especially with the Andalite Chronicles.
Yeah, Andalite Chronicles and the Hork-Bajir Chronicles.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, we gotta make that just a whole episode. All the Chronicles. We'll make that one big episode.
I just to warn you people, if you're listening to us thinking about other future episodes on this podcast, nothing's set in stone. Things will probably be turned around. We'll change our minds 2 seconds after we end the podcast.
Yeah, we'll have a structure somewhat, but don't think this is a MuggleNet or a Lore More or anything like that.
The only really structure for the podcast, since I'm the host, is that it has to be something that covers more than one book. Because I'm doing Zone 91, which is Animorphs reread podcast, so I just want to make sure there's at least a little slight difference between the two.
Yeah, what I was thinking about is when you do that, and I'll listen to it, and we'll kind of talk a little bit about that through here on more expanded, and how we see in the future with the other books how the evolution of that, this one would be Jake, with Jake's relationship with his brother, who's now a human controller, and how he went from I want to save him to
I'm going to kill him.
I'm going to kill him. Yeah. And then I think that actually does go into our final subject, is why the kids fight for, other than saving the universe. What's the
No,
reason
before we
they're fighting?
talk about the why they fight.
Again? Jesus, we had a structure before we
We
started.
did have a structure. It was you fangirling about Michael Grant retweeting you. What is Animorphs about? How we found Animorphs, favorite characters, and favorite books.
Oh
And
yeah,
then
favorite
the
books.
reasons we're
Okay,
fighting.
that's
I do have a structure. You just
it.
forgot
Okay,
it.
I just forgot. I'm sorry.
It's okay. It's the job of a host to
Yes.
realize what's going on. Unfortunately,
Yeah, yeah,
the
yeah.
co-host and the guest can completely forget what the fuck's going on.
Yeah, this is not like a regular like iTunes podcast where we can edit and cut, so it's all nice
I
and
could do
clean.
it like an iTunes podcast, but it takes me like maybe 2 or 3 weeks to edit, 15-minute audio.
Yeah, we're gonna try. I'm gonna at least gonna try on my end to learn how to do that, so you don't have to do that because you do so many podcasts. I can at least help you somewhat.
Well, I now do three. The fourth one, I'm actually a co-host and not hosting it at all.
Yeah, well, I'm just saying, it's just that, if we do a iTunes version of this, um, I will try to be the editor because I have too much time on my hands. I do have an Animorphs alternate universe comic called Morph. I will put that in the show notes for you guys. And on to favorite books. Let me see for me. I'm looking at my collection right now. Um, if anybody knows the podcast Thought Speak, they really, they make fun of Cassie a lot. But Cassie's books, especially one of my favorite books, is actually the Secret #9. And I don't know, it's just there's just something about it. It's something about that we see that mother hen in her, but we see the other Animorphs start to take on the mother hen role, especially after she finds these baby skunks, kits, because she finds the mom that was hit by a trackdown beam. It's basically like a Star Trek phaser, but more deadly.
Yeah, and for those wondering, Applegate is a Star Trek fan. I think Heather's our resident Trekkie. I know a little.
Yeah, and so when we find the kits and everything, all the Animorphs are saying, "Okay, we'll take care of them until Mama Skunk is all healed again," and they morph into the skunk and take care of the kits and play with them, and Marco even starts to name them after the Ramones, and each one
God,
has.
Marco, you know, you're great, but
So we start to see the Animorphs outside of Cassie start to feel that role of, you know what, we're not just saving, we gotta save every little thing that we can, every innocent thing, and so they start to see through Cassie's eyes, that she's just not a tree hugger. She's just like, no, this guy had no reason to be shot at. And see, #9, I would have to say, I love the Forgotten, our first time travel.
Sario.
Uh, yeah, well, I always say Sario.
No, that's what they go through.
Yeah, well,
No, listen.
I've always heard it said two ways, but I always say Sario Rip.
I don't know. I just say stuff. It's incorrect. How do you
uh,
pronounce it?
Sario.
Sario.
Yeah, Sario.
If
Um,
there's not an for those wondering, some Animorphs words don't have an official pronunciation, which
mm,
means some words, some species have like 3 or 4 definite,
yeah.
variations of how to pronounce it.
Yeah, like Jed or Jeed or Hork-Pajir or Hork-Pajir. They sound the same, but they're not. but I always say Hork-Pajir.
Yeah, Hork
Yeah,
Pajir.
yeah.
We should just do like an entire episode of us trying to pronounce the words that don't have official
Yeah, even
pronunciations.
That's one. A little bit of insight here. Kay Applegate, when she was making up even the name Yerk, she saw a word. I think it was like some kind of Yiddish word, York, or something like that. And she was like, "Well, that looks interesting," and she made Yerk out of it. If I'm getting that correctly. But that's a lot of stuff. She was kind of like looking around, looking at words. Sometimes she would see words spelled backwards, and it was like, that sounds kind of cool. Let me see if I can work that in. And just like any writer, like you and me, and we find our outside influences, and so with the names and everything, until you hear it coming out of K.A. Yeah, uh, K. Applegate's mouth, it's all speculation. unless you watch the TV show, which
Oh yeah, what TV show? They made a TV show?
back in
No,
the
they didn't.
90s.
They didn't
Yeah.
star Sean Ashmore, and it wasn't on the Nickelodeon network.
And that's currently on Netflix.
Oh, shit. I just hated, like, on Tumblr, like, for, like, a few weeks, people were going, oh my god, it's on Netflix. I'm thinking, didn't we all agree it sucked? I was confused. I'm like, why are we celebrating this?
Well, we're just kind of like, oh, if it's on Netflix, then maybe the people, even though that Sony Pictures has the film rights for Animorphs, well, maybe this will get some word out, and try to make it into a movie or TV show or whatever.
Just finds out about Animorphs, and their first thing they find out about it is the TV show. So they'll say, fuck it, we don't need a reboot.
Okay, that's like saying, looking at a couple comics of Guardians of the Galaxy and saying, what the fuck? Why is there a raccoon with a big old gun?
The thing is, it's like when you're trying to advertise, when you're trying to advertise something, gather interest, you don't show the bad shit and say, yay, maybe some people will pay attention. In Guardians of the Galaxy, a lot of people thought it was going to flunk.
Yeah. Because it had basically no superheroes. But anyway, we're going to be doing a lot of comparison with other series. And when we get Jashikin's co-host, Omar, in here, we have to do a couple with him. Because he's reading the Analyte Chronicles. I made a suggestion. That's actually another favorite book of mine, the Analyte Chronicles. If, Jashi, she will fight me on this, that being your first Animorphs book if you want to read it, but Analyte Chronicles is a good way, it's a good
It might be a good way. The thing, though, is it has a great plot twist that first-time readers should see after number 23. Maybe someone could make a edited version of that leaves out that plot twist and gives first-time readers.
Yeah.
Because it is a good introduction, but that plot twist is like,
yeah,
you need to read that after 23.
Yeah, I know, but there's too many good books. I would say my last big favorite, I have to say, when the Animorphs, it's number 50, The Ultimate, when they finally decide to up their ranks and make other kids into
Auxiliary Animorphs.
Yeah, the auxiliary Animorphs.
Which needed more time in the series and not to be used as cannon fodder.
Yeah. But what are yours?
I really have one big favorite. Number 6, The Capture.
Oh, yeah.
It was, for one,
that was a mindfuck book.
What?
That was a mindfuck book.
One of the things, this is, mind you, this is the first series. This is my first ever fandom. And so, you see the heroes, in this, the heroes you think have this protection with them that bad things can happen to them, but certain things can't, such as them being a controller. And so when that happened, it's like,
Yeah, Jake.
but he's an Animorph. That can't happen.
Yeah, Jake accidentally gets his head plopped into a small Yerk pool and is turned into a human controller. The Yerk that is in his head actually belonged to
His
his
brother.
brother Tom. So, plot twist!
That was like, fuck. And besides that, I didn't, as it was my first fandom, I couldn't really appreciate it the first like 50 times reading it. Was
And,
that, in books, TV shows and such, when someone has taken possession of one of the leads and for some reason they don't notice for a while and so chaos can go down? That doesn't happen in this book. Axe realizes something's up, and he is able to convince the others that, Jake is a controller now, which is just like, yes, it's like they just escape and they figure out, it's like, yes!
yeah, because Yerks are able to act like you to a T. They can open your mind up like a book. They have every memory at their disposal, and so it took them a while to be convinced. And I guess you would say that the funnier part of this book was, okay, we gotta strap Jake down for 3 days to make sure this Yerk dies, but who's gonna be Jake at his house and going to school and this kind of stuff? Axe?
What's really, I'll say one of the few good things that the non-existent TV show did was show you how Axe, acted while he was impersonating Jake, while in the book, you
Oh
just
yeah.
get to hear the parents and Tom commenting afterwards.
Yeah. The capture episode was probably the closest to the
It
canon.
was a two-parter, too.
Two-parter?
Yeah.
Yeah. It was probably the closest to the canon. And here's the thing about Andalites. So, when you read it, you're kind of like, what? How is that? Taste? He doesn't know anything about taste. Andalites don't have mouths. They eat through their feet.
Cigarette butts. The latest chapter in the Stranger that I read, Axe tried to eat cigarette butts.
Yeah. Yeah, so when he morphs into a human being, he doesn't know what taste is like, so his obsession with cinnamon buns, with buns, and also making mouth noises is a very new thing for Andalite. So you almost think that he has
What's this order?
yeah, that he has a little bit of a lisp or he stutters or something, because making those sounds, especially Z's and S's and are just like tantalizing. It's almost addictive to Andalites, but especially food. But to him, eating like a paper plate is like, it's supposed to be normal, right?
It tastes good.
Yeah, it tastes good.
Did he complain about not being able to eat oil at one time? I don't know if I misremembered.
Yeah, he did. Yeah, he did. And it's like, it was gasoline oil, like coming from a car as it's dripping down. But yeah, so in the capture, those 3 days with Axe Jake, yeah, basically his family thought he must be on something, because he acted so weird, and he complimented on Mama's food so much, being so good. So but yeah, the capture. Oh, that's another.
That was it. I think some people have even commented that was his game-changing book. It upped the ante.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, oh, you have a suicidal birdie. Now look at this.
Yeah. Yeah, basically every couple books it just adds a little bit more layers and layers and layers, and even when we get into the ghost written books, um, a couple of them I've actually reread those, and you see a little bit of uh,
Okay.
K
Should we
K.
just make this a Harry Potter podcast now?
Well,
Let's talk about
okay,
Hufflepuff.
okay, okay, okay. Okay, nowadays, Catherine Applegate can put Catherine Applegate, but she only put K.A. Applegate because they're like, well, you're doing a science fiction series, so we think the boys won't like it that you're a girl, so.
That's so fucking stupid. And the sad thing is, this is happening, in the modern age. I can understand the whole thing with Mary Shelley having to publish Frankenstein under her husband's name.
Yeah, yeah, or Jane Austen, when she published her book, she had to put it anonymously,
It's just like,
until
I
almost she died.
don't,
Until
we've sort of moved on a little bit in history if anyone has bothered to notice.
Yeah, and nowadays there's so many female writers. The Hunger Games. Excuse me for saying the word Twilight. Divergent series.
Hang on.
What? Yeah,
I
yeah.
have the other two there too. Okay. I
And
nearly fell over.
and so for them to say no, you're making a series that we're gonna more aim towards boys, so you gotta put initials.
I'm a boy. Holy shit. Changes my whole perspective on things.
But now, I think studios and publishers are like, there's so many girls out there. Why haven't we not tapped into this? Because everybody should know this. Almost all fandoms are all girls. Almost all, you know, almost all girls. I mean, there's guys, for Trekkies and Star Wars and Marvel and all that. But for a lot of book stuff, for a lot of TV stuff, it's all girls. So, that's the only thing. It's kind of like, scholastic, be progressive, if you try to put the books out again, put Catherine Applegate on there.
Yeah. And if you're going to, re-release the series and make updates,
Hmm.
do some shit like in the first book, have Tobias not able, don't have the Animorphs able to communicate via thought speak when not in morph.
Well, yeah,
That
they fixed that in the re-release.
because I remember reading that for the first, no, reading the second one for the first time, and then Rachel's like, yeah, I can't communicate well, not in morph. And I'm like,
Yeah, yeah.
what the?
Typo.
Yeah, and then you can't. I think they changed Xena to Storm. It's like she has
No.
Xena.
She is so not Storm. Storm is more like Cassie. She's very more Earth. She was, almost worshipped as a goddess, and she's like, I will fight, but when I need to. Other than that, I am very passive aggressive.
Yeah,
But to
Cassie is
me,
passive aggressive,
you
erasing
know,
someone from
to
history.
me, I would have called Rachel more. Oh, who do we got? Maybe even call her Katniss. Katniss Everdeen. Or very.
I don't know, Katniss. The thing with Katniss, though, is she's very in it for herself and her family, and she basically gets dragged into leading a revolution.
Yeah, but or oh shoot, what female characters nowadays that everybody looks up to? Now with Guardians, who?
And Divergent, Trish.
Yeah, Trish. There you
And
go.
Veronica Roth is a Animorph, and Trish is
Yeah,
supposed to be Rachel, and Tobias 4 is supposed to be Tobias.
yeah, yeah. Here's a news flash. Divergent Arthur Veronica Roth is an Animorphs fan. So here you go. You
We
know,
got a name.
we got a name. But I guess for now, we kind of segued into our next point. Finally,
What next point?
our last point of why the kids fight.
Yeah. Oh
Yeah.
yeah, we were supposed to do that. What other shit can I come up with to talk about?
For Jake, we already said he at the beginning of the series he is fighting for his brother for his freedom, from being a controller. For Rachel, it is for in number two
Melissa,
for Melissa Chapman.
who
Um,
for some reason is like introduced and then not shown again until near the end of the series.
yeah, and maybe her name is popped up or whatever. But for Tobias, it's basically for
This
at first. I guess he thought maybe if we fight and the Andalites come, maybe they could help reverse me.
Yeah, and in book 3, and the first 5 books give the reason for each person fighting.
Hmm.
For Tobias, during book 3, it becomes a way for him to remain human, for him to keep up with his humanity, for him to make sure that other people aren't trapped like he is. Instead of being a non-flit, they're trapped in their own minds, which is sort of what he's going through.
Mhm. Mhm. And for Cassie, for her, I guess her you got to go with the whole Mother Nature thing because she somehow gets some kind of weird psychic link with a humpback whale, and
I
so
think the cinnamon buns like that did the Animorphs reread called it Jesus Whale.
yeah, the Jesus whale. To me, that was I think that was the Elamist, you know. But we will talk about him later. He's
God,
basically
fuck him.
Q. Yeah, he is Q from Star Trek. Yeah, we got our own Q. Um,
I'm not a big Trekkie, but is Q an asshole? Because the Ellimist to me is an asshole. Like,
yes,
has
he is.
sort of good intentions, but he's a fucking asshole. I'm not. Oh, okay, it might be what he did to Tobias's family, and I only really like to role play Tobias from Animorphs, so I'm heavily biased.
Yeah,
He's so.
yeah. Q is a huge douche, but he's interested in humanity. He gets this rather weird fascination with Picard and tries to put him in situations of expanding his mind about things. But every once in a while he'll put him in a situation of like, hey, now the whole cast of Next Generation, they're Robin Hood and the Merry Men, and he's the sheriff, Q's the sheriff. So how do we do this? And so he's able to snap his fingers and anything will happen. But he's not supposed to interfere, and this is what the Elam is. He's not supposed to.
We're not supposed to interfere, aka we're totally not interfering by telling you what to do.
Yeah, but I'm gonna put little seeds here and here and here and here.
And then like, oh, Tobias, oh I totally know what you want, but I'm just going to give you your morphing ability back and not give you your human plus morphing ability. You're going
Mm-hmm.
to spend life as a hockey little bitch.
Yeah, if they ever make Animorphs into a movie, I want to have the Elamis voiced by John Delancey, the guy that played Q, because he has that smarmy kind of thing. Like in My Little Pony Friendship is Magic, John Delancey plays a similar character, Discord, who, basically causes chaos. And he's like, yeah, okay, I'm basically playing Q again, but as this weird animal. And to me, I'm like, you know what? Since Applegate was a Trekkie, come on, Delancey, you could voice a weird alien again, But okay, now Marco, this is the big one.
Yeah,
Um,
after Marco we'll do Axe, but let's go with Marco first and his hatred of trash cans. He's actually fighting the war because he hates trash cans.
well, this is before the trash cans. This is before.
I know, I'm making a joke.
Yeah, I know. Okay.
A bad joke like he does.
Yeah. for Marco. He wanted to quit so many times, especially after being turned into an ant and nearly getting him, chopped in two.
Yeah, and then he comes back home and there's still an ant head in his stomach, and he has to pull that out.
Oh, and you know how much those bitches hurt? Especially with the fire ant.
I'm thinking more of how they hurt. I think of, oh my god, I just nearly got killed, but here's the last little attacker still clinging
I know,
on.
but I mean, do you know how much they hurt when they clench onto you? And for him to be so tired and so run out that he doesn't even notice it until he actually is fixing to go to bed and sees it. And he's like, oh, great, yeah, give me a last reminder, why don't you? But his reason is when he sees Visor 1, the person who found Earth, and decide, oh, this is the best race ever because of how many of us there are. That's basically the only reason that they're here is because there's billions of us.
And we can survive in many different environments. We can eat a variety of food. Well, like species like the Hork-Bajir were nearly wiped out by the Andalites, who are great people, and I'll save that rant for a couple episodes. And so there's not really a lot of Hork-Bajir left, and they can only eat wood.
Yeah, they look like walking like dinosaurs with
Salad shooters, Marco calls them.
Yeah, they have T-Rex feet. They're very almost kind of like an ostrich style neck, but blades all over the place. But you think they're fierce and whatever? No, they eat trees. They eat bark of trees, and they help shape trees and all that. They're vegetarians.
And they were created genetically by the Arn, who were another species on their home planet, to tend to the trees. That's why their intelligence is kept very low, and only like a few special one seers for our genetic anomalies.
Yeah. We'll get to Toby later, but once we get introduced to Visor 1, it's his mama who's supposed to have died 2 years ago
and that's the reason why Marco was reluctant to fight, because he was the last thing his dad had, and he had seen how his dad reacted losing his mom, and he didn't want to cause that same amount of pain to him because he doesn't think his dad could survive it.
Yeah, his dad was a brilliant engineer, and then after Ava died, he quit his job. He started drinking. He was doing janitorial work, and Marco was basically the last thing that he had, and he didn't want to die for this big crazy cause, this outlandish cause, until he saw his mother, and then basically, things got real, and so. But he doesn't tell anybody, except the only person that knows is Jake.
And he says, basically, Jake, don't tell the others.
Yeah, don't tell the others that that's my mom.
And I don't think it's until, like, book 15 that the others find out. But even when they don't know, they can tell that Marco's more into the fight.
Yeah. Yeah, every time the Visor 1 pops, her head up in the books, Marco is always, I gotta do it, I gotta do it. You guys can't do shit. It's me, it's me. I mean, even he goes as far as morphing into a mountain goat and headbutting her off a cliff.
He nearly kills his own mommy.
For the sake of the world.
And let me remind any of you who have forgotten, this is a kid's book. Aimed at 12-year-olds. And we're talking about matricide. No wonder it's so fucked up.
And so yeah, if you guys think this is a kid series, haha, we're proving you wrong right now.
Like, they need to change the cover so people don't go into it thinking, hey, this is just a cute series about teenagers fighting off an alien invasion, turning into animals.
no, 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 no. You know?
Oh my god. So I nearly free. I haven't, I'm only on book 7 on my reread, and I haven't got to the matricide part yet. So that's not as clear in my mind as other things.
Yeah, and you were gonna say for Axe.
Yeah, Axe. Now I know Axe, uh, encountered in book 4, is the only surviving Andalite. Now you could say that Axe's reason for fighting is just because, he's an Andalite and they sort of fight the Yeerks. But the thing is, in book 5, he's wanting to go back and rejoin his race because, let's face it, you're on an alien world with none of your kind. You're just mentally aged as a human teenager. You're going to want to get back home.
I want to go back to my mama and daddy.
Yeah, fuck this shit. Fuck you,
Yeah.
humans.
Yeah.
But the thing is, he can't get back home. Number 5 provides a reason why he can't fly back. So the reason why he's fighting this war is because he can't go back home. And it's only not until book 8 that he starts to really trust the other Animorphs and start, not being as secretive. Because the Andalites have this really big loss called Zero's kindness, because
it's the Andalites' fault that the Yeerks are who they are.
Yeah, that the Yeerks escaped and started invading was because of a guy called Prince Zero, and because of his kindness, and Zero's kindness. So they are very secretive because they don't want that happening again. And so Axe is like bordering on the, should I trust, who are my real people? And so he keeps up the act of Zero's kindness.
Yeah, it's again, go with Star Trek. It's like the Prime Directive. Do not interfere with a certain species of a certain technological age or whatever like that until, basically for Star Trek, until they reach warp drive capabilities. Then we'll introduce ourselves to you.
Hey, yo, we were here the whole time. We actually had a drinking game. That's gone now.
Yeah. And with Zero's kindness, when he went to Yeerk World and he saw that the Yeerks were just, there's these poor, defenseless species that their only way that they can get out is controlling these three-legged, almost like blue chimpanzees, I guess you would call Jeeds or Jeds. Yeah. And so he felt sorry for him. So he was like, no. You guys need to explore the universe too, just like us. And when they did that, they're kind of like, hey, what's over here? What's over here? Ooh, we want you. You. We'll take the whole species. So after that,
that's horrible but funny.
Yeah. So after that, he is disgraced, and becomes the Prime Directive, aka Zero's kindness. And so it takes Axe a long time to open up of why he is so secretive about certain things until he actually breaks down and says, yeah, it's our fault that the Yeerks are doing this. And he thinks that the kids are going to instantly hate him because he exposes their biggest, their biggest fault. And they're like, it's not your fault. You thought you were doing a good thing, so we can't be mad at you. You're trying to make up for your mistake. That's okay, So yeah, and that's when he's kind of like, okay, I think humans aren't that bad, not just because of the food or all this other stuff. Yeah, but because they've forgiven me. They've forgiven what my people did. And so yeah, he almost adopts the humans as his race until he's able to go home. Even then, he still thinks of humans as allies, as even though we'll discuss later on what Andalites think of people that are disabled or people that.
There's We could do an entire episode of me ranting on Andalites because, like, the thing is, in the first book, it seems clearly defined Andalites are the good guys, Yeerks are the bad guys, but you find out that things are a lot more complicated, and the majority of Andalites are dicks.
Yes.
That's the long story short.
Yeah. Yeah. Andalites are mostly a military race.
And they believe on old-fashioned honor,
Yeah.
which is good, but
Very
I think
Klingon.
that we'll cover. We might have an entire couple episodes dedicated to that.
Yeah, yeah, we should. We should. We should.
Fuck Candlelights. No offense, Axe, Elfangor, Aldrea, the one captain that talked to Elfangor when he first came back. I sort of am iffy on you, Alran, who's a very three's host,
And
but the rest of you are
Arborin also, the one that gets stuck as
Arburn, and the two gay Andalites that are totally no homo. I still have to get to that book. I'll have my opinion on it later, but the majority of the fandom is that they're gay lovers, but no homo.
Yeah, they're Schwarms. They're best friends. They're like soulmates. Yeah. Again, we'll go into more of the Andalites, into all these different kind of words, and but I think we did pretty good for episode 1.
Yeah, we didn't go off onto too many tangents.
No, for first episode, I think we're doing good.
The first episode, I've done another podcast. I finally got another podcast structured, and so this episode, like behind the scenes, took like 5 or 10 minutes to get it working correctly. Which I've done like Jash talks like on good weeks it's weekly, so I know how to. Even this new little setup YouTube has, I sort of figured it out, but this was the episode to just go, fuck it. So I guess the first episode of anything has a curse.
Yes. Yeah, so all everybody, if you're not like 6 or something, everybody curses now, so.
Wow, the thing that annoys me with the Animorphs is that they can have matricide, genocide, but they can't curse or drink. And it's
wasn't until the last book that they said, damn, or, I guess because it was at the end, so she was kind of, you know what, I'm just going to let it all go.
Yeah, like, I think it's the point when a series is going to end that they're like, fuck it, like, the final season of Fringe, Walter blatantly was smoking a bong, I believe. Like, his, like, drug habits have been commented and shown throughout the series, but it was one of the most blunt things in the series, and I was like, yeah, this is the final season. They just don't give a fuck.
But anyway, in closing, I hope that we gave you a detailed yet broad sense of the series. We will go in more detail later on. And like I said, with her partner, Animorphs podcast, we'll kind of stretch out from that conversation into the more spoiler-free. Very
spoiler-free. This was a very spoiler-free episode, yo.
Yeah, well, that podcast is basically by the book, each book. For us,
there's probably going to be spoilers for the series in that one too.
But for us, we'll be able to more connect with everything.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you'll be able to listen to 2 Animorphs podcasts.
And Zone 91 should be premiering this Sunday. My co-host Rista is just having basically filming location problems. Long story short, like trying to find a location that people won't walk in, or there won't be background noises, and so I'm sort of having to reassure her that a little background noise is okay. J&J Mondays, the podcast I'm co-host of, and it's just basically entertainment news for the most part, though there are serious topics discussed. My host films in a cafe, so I'm okay with a little background noise. But
Yeah,
that should be, Zone 91 should be this Sunday. If it's not this Sunday, it has to be at least a week later because I'll be on vacation in California for a week.
oh, okay, okay. And I guess we'll try to make these maybe weekly, bi-weekly, maybe?
I think every other week, just so I don't
Yeah.
get, like this week, if everything goes correctly, I'll be doing 4 podcasts, and
You're
next time I
right.
would just two, now I have basically 2 weekly podcasts, and like every week just to sort of just do 2 instead of 3.
Yeah, yeah, we'll try to make this bi-weekly, especially with my schedule. I have a lot of doctor's appointments, so sometimes Tuesdays and Wednesdays, I'm usually at some doctor's office. So bi-weekly would be better.
Well, bi-weekly, does that mean twice a week?
No, no, no. Bi-weekly means every other week.
Okay. I'm an
Um,
English major, folks. Haven't
like they release comics bi-weekly. That means like every 2 weeks. So,
Okay, folks, this has been the premiere episode. I hope we had some sort of consistency and that you keep on watching us.
and comment, comment, comment.
Yeah. Especially
Yeah.
positive comments. Those really
Yes.
help out.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Just don't say you suck. It's like, yeah, we know it's the first episode. Everybody sucks.
Explain?
Yeah, yeah. So,
Can you say that in a Dalek voice?
huh?
Can you say explain in a Dalek voice? Because I just, like...
Explain, explain.
Exactly. That sound clip needs to be played whenever you just write a simple "you suck."
Oh my gosh, I will get that sound clip and have it on the ready.
Okay, that has been it. And any closing words, Keetor?
You can contact me on Twitter at Keetor84. It is spelled KHEETOR84 on Twitter. I'm on DeviantArt with the same username. I have, like I said earlier, I have a Animorphs alternate universe fan comic called Morph. Not with the same characters, it's a bunch of new kids, and I'm basically telling a more modern story of of the concept of the Animorphs concept. And I'm starting to update again. I'm trying to do a better art style. The first issue called The Contact, you will see a lot of style differences. It's because it took me about 2 years to write that one and to draw it and everything. And in between those, I got sick. I have Crohn's disease. Been in the hospital. I've had to move. So I don't have like a set schedule of when updates happen. So if you can just watch me, and I'll be trying to do updates more often. I'm doing character sheets right now of the main characters, and let me see, DeviantArt, I'm on Tumblr with the same username, Keetor84. Mainly, I just rant about Doctor Who and Animorphs and anything else that crosses my Tumblr dashboard. I have a huge crush on Paul McGann, so you probably every once in a while see pictures of him and me going, "Ah!" But like she does with Mark Ruffalo.
I don't do anything with Mark Ruffalo. What do you mean? I didn't have a Tobias, accidentally through a flawless maneuver accident have a Ruffalo morph. What are you talking about?
But yeah, you can contact me there. She would put up all the links on the page, and I'll see you in 2 weeks then.
Yeah, and also I have besides my main blog Jashikins, I have a role-playing Tobias Tumblr, which if you just want to ask questions, do a little role play. I do OCs and I do, crossovers. As long as I'm either aware of that series or you provide information for me, and because it's like if My Little Pony crossover, I won't know what the fuck's going on.
I can tell you. I can tell you.
Okay, later.
Okay, okay.
But my Tobias role playing Tumblr is Tobias the Nonflit.tumblr.com. I also have an AO3 account, Jashikins, where there's adults Animorphs fanfics.
She is the smut master.
Yeah, I think that Darren said local smud master. I was like, oh, that's
Yep.
such a compliment. So I'm also doing 2 serious adult sort of Animorphs series for relating to my Tobias Tumblr. One Animorgy is sort of a backstory for that, while the sequel to it, which actually has more chapters than the one that comes before it, The Dawning, is about Tobias going back in time and having to refight the war again and try to find what event changed it so that the Yeerks won.
So, I guess that's it for us.
Yeah.
Yeah. And we hope you enjoyed it. Again, comment, feedback. We'll be putting this up as soon as we can, so we can link it to all of our stuff. And we'll see you next time. This is Kitor.
And this is Jashikin saying adios, amigos.
Ciao.